All right, everybody, this is going to be a lecture over visual literacy and design principles according on CSC 187, 3D Animation 1. What we're trying to do in all of our classes is develop an understanding of art techniques and principles, and so that you can apply these things to your projects. And so we've got to talk about these things, not just the computer stuff and where to click on this and where to click on that, but actually the ideas, foundational ideas in art, in design, because every image that you create needs to have a purpose, needs to have a message, needs to have a way to communicate with your audience, and putting in and utilizing these principles is how you do it. So one of the things that you've heard about are, you have to know the rules in order to break the rules, and that's so true. And so understanding these key ideas and starting simply and starting to apply them in these very first compositions that you create will absolutely benefit you, because you're always going to be practicing these techniques. To quote Robin Williams, I do not think it is more satisfying. I do think it's more satisfying to break the rules if you know what the rules are in the first place, and you can break them better. And I think that's an important idea, is that first you have to know it. I hear this again and again and again. Harry Marks is a famous motion graphic artist who ushered in the motion graphic design of television. He's famous for so many of those early designs we'd seen in the 80s, some of us. And that's what he said. You build off the principles, you build off the rules. And so one of the things I want you to think about, in order to communicate well verbally, we learned English, we learned grammar, we learned how to make a sentence structure, and all those things. And then from that, we learned how to communicate better. We do the same thing with art. We have tools that we use. Verbal literacy, like I was just talking about, can be broken down into simple parts. And visual literacy can be broken down into simple parts too. There are design principles of composition, things like unity, balance, emphasis, and rhythm. Design elements such as color and tone and texture. And these all work together. These have relationships with one another that convey meaning, how we interpret it. Certain colors have meaning. When we put things together on a page and have one isolated over here, it has meaning. The way we make something feel unsafe it has meaning. So like unsafe, it's dark and it's creepy, or it's green and it's like a chemical poison. It's green and we think, oh, that's poison, that's bad. Or it's very colorful and healthy and it's wonderful. And those are psychological things that we have to think about. And so visual meaning is the cumulative effects of the arrangement of basic elements. So we have basic elements and the way they're arranged, and how, as a whole, they work together to create a meaning. This is stuff that's shared by humans. We have it in our psychology, and how we interpret this stuff is something that we have. Maybe we don't all have the same kind of thing, but we have similar responses to certain things. Certain things make us happy, certain things make us afraid, certain things make us feel sad. And those things are very, very important. And so when we're making a composition, we have to consider those things. We have to consider those things ahead of time, or figure out what it is you need to do with your composition to have the effect that you want. If something needs to feel grand and huge, how do you do that? If you want something to feel small and isolated and lonely, how do you do that? If you want something to feel like it's overpowering and monstrous to someone feels very short or very, very small, how do you do that? So some of these ideas, the gestalt theory of design principles is, when we look at something, we try to look at things holistically in the beginning before we start breaking them down into individual parts. What do we see when we instantly look at something? We have a need for coherent patterns and organizations of images. Human beings have an inherent need to to make things organized. We can look at something and try to figure out what is it. That's why we look at abstract paintings for a long time. Is there something in there that I'm missing? What does that mean? What is the meaning of this? The double rainbow. Remember the video that went viral, the double rainbow? What's the meaning of all this? Wow, it's so amazing. And so you can see in some of these images that if you look at it in a whole, what you see when you first glance at it might not be what I see. And then at the end we can pick it apart and see what we've got. You might look at this and see one thing, or you might look at it and see two things, or maybe you look at it and you can see all three things. Again, here as well. So we can build things based on those kind of concepts. We can also think about how do things fit together? How do we add unity so that things feel like they're cohesive and that they fit together? One of the things that we can think of is that this is a nice example of a chart that can feel like it fits together. This one on this side has similar shapes and they work together, similar colors. This one has a variety of colors and lots of different shapes. It can be held together by these little brackets and everything, and it might feel a little bit disorganized due to all the different colors, but still it does have a feeling of unity. It does feel like it comes together. This one has a different effect on you. Now this over here is a variety. Things feel very organized and things feel very disorganized, and as a whole the whole thing feels a little bit odd. Round shapes, square shapes, colored shapes, black shapes, all in a line. And so these things are different ways of achieving unity. You can group something together, like all of these are grouped together, all of these are grouped together, all of these are grouped together, all of these are grouped together. Those things are interesting. So unity and variety are techniques that you can use. Too much unity is boring, and that's something we don't want. And too much variety is chaotic. I would say this is a little chaotic, but this is maybe a little too boring. So emphasis. How do we emphasize something? Emphasis is a term that we need to understand. So a lot of times we want to draw attention to something. Maybe in clothing you can draw attention to certain parts of your body. You know, if you have broad shoulders, if you want to make yourself feel slimmer. There's ways to de-emphasize and emphasize things. One thing that you can do is that emphasis gives prominence to a part of a design. It can also create focal points. Some of the ways that you can do it is through isolation. For instance, this is isolated down here. It becomes kind of a separate. It's kind of, I look at it. You can do it through position and direction. It's also at a tilt. You can do it through contrast in size, like this one gets emphasized, or shape. This one gets emphasized, or color. These yellow ones stand out because they are different. These are all green. This is yellow. I look at that. Even though it isn't square or bigger and it isn't round, but I still check it out. It still gets my attention. In this painting, they're doing it again by having the object, the main character, brightly colored and at an angle. Here's another example. We have cool colors and then this warm red color, and it's providing emphasis. It's shooting down, basically leading us to this person. Balance is another example. Balance is the distribution of visual weight or the importance within a composition. Now, some of the things we can think about in our composition is the vertical balance or the horizontal balance, the left and right balance, and the top and bottom. This painting here has pretty much an equal balance to it on one side and the other. We've got triangles kind of pointing to the center, triangle. We got flags and horses and men and men, and we've got people over here and people over there, and it's all focusing on something right in the middle. So this is fairly well balanced. We can also think there's equal weight on this page because of how we're looking around at things. Different parts of the image draws our attention. Where do we end up spending most of our time? Is it down here exploring all of these little elements? Or is it over here where this high contrast region is? In this image, we have a lot of vertical lines. We have a lot of activity. We have people over here. We have objects over here, this high contrast. the weight, maybe this feels heavier than this, but our eyes still flow over here and explore and look at all these different things. Now, that's to keep things balanced. And another way is to have purposeful imbalance, where we can also use to attract attention. We can also create a sense of uneasiness or stressfulness and cause things to be quite, it can feel weird or make you uncomfortable. We can do that by just having objects that are of different sizes or different groupings. Feels like it's heavier over here. This is bigger, it's heavier over here. Or remember, there's more weight at this part on the upper part than in the lower part, or on the right side or the left side, or the upper part. If we draw a line across here, there's more objects below. So we can think about the right and left sides and up and down sides. We can create rhythm within our compositions. Rhythm being the result of repetitive patterns. Like rhythm in music, visual rhythm can alter the moods dramatically. You know, when you look at an image like this, you can feel how it goes off into the distance, but it feels kind of fun. It's like fun is like a carnival or a flag waving. It's not really aggressive. It feels really good. This as well. This is kind of a fun swaying kind of thing, but it does produce maybe a little bit of maybe a little awkwardness, or not awkwardness, but maybe unease as things become uncomfortably close to one another maybe. But you can feel this rhythm, these curves and these curves and these curves. Again, repeating patterns, this dot, 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 you can almost hear it. And then the different patterns, and this shape, and this shape, and this shape, and this shape. Different kind of do patterns. I think of it like music. So rhythm can be created. You can create a composition with repetitive types of structures. You can see that in cathedrals, you can see that in towers, and that sort of thing, where you take a repeating idea, or take an idea and repeat it. Another thing we can do is create this sense of depth, the illusion of depth. And we talked about this with the depth of field. Depth of field, getting a sense of things being farther away, using the idea of environment fog, and this is the idea of things closer to you are stronger and more saturated, and as they go farther and farther away, they drift off into the atmospheric perspective. Also, you can layer things on a flat composition. You can have something on top of another thing on top of another thing, or like these are lined up. These give this sense of depth. So in all your compositions, this is just a short list of things to be thinking about, but thinking about balance and imbalance, thinking about how do we unify things, how do we add rhythm to things, how do we add depth to things, and these are the things you need to be practicing as you go through creating and thinking about your compositions ahead of time. And they're very important elements. And every time you make a photograph, every time you draw a picture, every time you do a thumbnail, be thinking of the composition. Where's the weight of the image? How do I lead the eye into this scene? How do I create depth? So it feels like there's more than just this two-dimensional, feels like a two-dimensional scene, but actually has depth and something more to it. All right, so those ideas are something that you have to be thinking about each and every time. So when you show me your concepts for your projects, project 1 or whatever it is, and in any class, you need to think about these things. Why did you put that image there? Why did you put the object where you put it? Why is that mark there? And is it to create a sense of unity? Is it to create a sense of disunity or disharmony? Or is it a way to create rhythm and repetition? So be thinking about all those things all the time. All right, so visual literacy, design principles. Have a great one.